Number one, what gives them the authority to be a training group when it comes to story? Because they like penis? Let's go over to Memology over on X. They had one of those how it started, how it's going posts where they talked about, I've never had any interaction with the Act Man. I don't know who this person is. I guess they have a YouTube channel. Drinker, are you familiar with the Act Man?
I'm vaguely, yeah. I'm more because of his interactions with Az more than anything else, because I don't really watch his stuff.
Right. So Az obviously had his infamous rant on Starfield. Fucking pronouns, current day. And
it was amazing. Nobody on YouTube can rant in quite the emotional, visceral way that Az can. He is beautiful to watch when he gets going.
You're right, man. It's visceral. Like, it's to the point to where you can like see the veins sticking out of his forehead because he's so fucking.
But he cares. That's the thing. He cares about this stuff. He's not doing it for clicks and attention when it comes to stuff like this. He genuinely cares about this stuff because he is more of a gamer than I have ever been and ever will be. And this stuff matters to him.
So after his pronoun rant, once again tweeted by Dan Bask back in the day, Ackman says, gorilla-shaped man on the verge of crime because Starfield lets you pick pronouns at the start of the game, and then it never brought up again. Someone please shoot this guy with a bear tranquilizer. He's going to attack someone. So this was like just 6 months ago, right?
Just before you move to the next one, because I know what's coming. But yeah, it's interesting that he said that because that's what prompted Az to team up with Eric July and do a live stream called what is it? The Silverback and Ripper, and like Az has probably made thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars from super chat donations and revenue from this. So well done, Ack, man. You gave him the idea for all this stuff. So good stuff. Good going.
Embrace it, man. Brilliant. Really.
As thanks you, I'm sure.
Right. So he goes in and he's like, I don't understand. Oh, this guy's a gorilla-shaped man. And this was like yesterday or a couple of days ago, whereas Ackman's like, he's starting to be awakened to what's happening with Sweet Baby Inc. Says, so I started looking into the Sweet Baby Inc. stuff, and I cannot fathom, game studios would hire a narrative consultant. Isn't that what lead writers are for? Why not just hire a better writing team and keep it in-house? And so they consult this firm to basically get a better social credit score in the hopes of getting more investors. I think I just swallowed my own vomit. Right. So the awakening in a situation like this is kind of the most fascinating thing here, is that Sweet Baby Inc. We've been talking about this for a while, probably since November or so. We deserve zero credit for that because there's been a lot of people who've been talking about it a lot longer than we have. But to see kind of the awakening that you're seeing outside of this specific sphere is pretty fascinating. And I feel like this is just kind of the tip of the sword almost when it comes here.
Yeah. The one group of people that you absolutely do not want to fuck with is gamers, because those people are passionate about what they do and they have got a lot of time on their hands and they will dedicate that to exposing your bullshit and unraveling it. And it's absolutely happened. In the case of Sweet Baby Inc., it was relatively easy. I mean, they were able to pull the information from Sweet Baby Inc.'s website and say, hey, just so you know, these are all of the other games that Sweet Baby Inc. has consulted on and has worked on. Notice a bit of a pattern here. Notice how they all turned out to be kind of trash, with a couple of notable exceptions. That's the kind of people that you don't want to mess with. And that's exactly what they've done. And now that they've been turned on to this, now that they're aware that this is something which is happening, they will not stop until this stuff has been purged from their industry. And rightly so, because they are the consumers. They are the people who deserve to be having their needs met. And if they're not, then, well, they're going to track down the people who are preventing that and hold them accountable. Nothing wrong with that.
So speaking of holding people accountable, as Short Fat Otaku says, the Sweet Baby Steam group is approaching 200,000 followers at this point.
Yes, when it first started, it had about a few hundred, I think. Mm-hmm. Then Sweet Baby Inc., the people within that company tried to have it banned, They did everything in their power to have this shut down, even though it was literally just sharing publicly available information from Sweet Baby Inc.'s own website. And it was the Streisand effect. And now they're almost at 200,000. Who knows where it's going to end up? I hope it keeps going to 1 million at this point.
Well, so, I mean, this is like a cultural thing. And we had Kabrutus on, the founder of the group, the other day. And he just he's just a regular dude. He was inspired by another group on Steam to more or less, all he's doing is providing the information from the Sweet Baby Inc. website, right? And Kabrutus is on now. He's been thrust into this almost like influencer role here as his Steam group has grown. And this has been a talk on Twitter, on YouTube, really pretty extensively over the last week or so. As this, like I said, there's a great awakening here. But I did a little research yesterday, and this still holds true today. I went in to look at every single quote unquote legacy outlet: Kotaku, Polygon, IGN, GameSpot. Not a single one of them has said anything about this yet. Not a single one.
I was going to, it's good that he didn't call them like mainstream or popular outlets, because Kotaku and Polygon haven't been popular in like a decade. They're just
legacy.
Yeah, legacy is the perfect name for them. Yeah,
right. It means old, right? They're old. They're old at this point. They're not relevant. Right.
Look, I'm not standing up here as some kind of paragon of this stuff either. It took me a long time to realize the implications of this. Like, I didn't even know what was going on, because I'm certainly not plugged into the gaming industry. And it wasn't until I started reading into it and understanding what Sweet Baby Inc. was and what they'd done that it really like connected for me. And that's why I wanted to make a video about it. But yeah, I'm very late to the game on this one.
Well, but that's the idea, though, is that now people like this is kind of a pushing off point for a lot of folks. And I mentioned Sweet Baby Inc. kind of being the tip of the spear, but they're not the only one, as you mentioned, Drinker. The idea that I saw this post earlier today as well, a list of the Sweet Baby-esque consultation companies that propagandize games. Obviously, Sweet Baby Inc. And I you see names like Black Girl Gamers. Could you imagine if there was a list called White Man Gamers or a company called White Man Gamers? Hit Detect.
I see Anita Sarkeesian there at like number 10.
Anita Sarkeesian / consulting right there. Gamma Space.
The thing is, and this is all fine, like naming these consultancy firms, because it's publicly available information, the games that they've worked on. There's nothing nefarious about naming that stuff. But the bigger problem is the fact that this is allowed to happen. There's a gaming industry that permits this stuff, and that will actively bring in companies like this to consult on their games. Why? What do you think that they're going to do that's going to improve your game? How are they going to add to the quality of your game? They're not. All they're going to do is force in more of this crap that nobody wants, that nobody appreciates, that normal gamers get put off by. Yeah, they've got a threshold for it, and they might tolerate a certain degree of it. Like, oh, this is an otherwise good game, but like that was a bit weird. But it gets to a certain point where they just rebel against you. And now that they're aware of it, they're going to rebel even harder, because they're going to be on the lookout for this stuff. And when they see it, they'll vote with their wallets, and they will mobilize other people to do the same thing. And as they should, because their industry doesn't deserve to be politicized like this. It doesn't deserve to have all this garbage inserted into it that adds nothing to the stories that you're trying to tell.
The thing that drives me most crazy about this is like, no, you're right. Everyone will tolerate it. And it's not about like, I don't care if there's a gay character in a game, right? What I care about is when you take like, there's this article, this is Gamer X, right? And Gamer X this is another one of those consulting and training groups. Number one, what gives them the authority to be a training group when it comes to story? Because they like penis, right? Or they like vagina, like because they're gay, because who they sleep with, that gives them the opportunity to be a consultant. But my biggest issue with all this is oftentimes I know a lot of gay people, and none of them walk around talking about how much they love being gay, or they love penis, or they love, you know what I mean? Like it's almost like they're a parody of themselves in these games. and I think that's the thing that drives me most crazy. They're like these over sexualized versions of gay people, or lesbians, or whatever, and that's the crazy thing. He's like, they're at a certain point, we're past this tolerant phase, and that's kind of how we got here, being so open-minded and tolerant, and letting it happen. Yeah, it's cool until it's not, and we're at that point where, okay, we're all there now.
And I think the very nature of being a video game player, like a gamer as we call it now, it's a young person's hobby, right? And it's something particularly for young men. And the thing that defines young men is their fuck you factor, right? They hate being told what to do. They hate being like told that they have to believe this, or they have to respect that, or they have to say this. That goes counter to everything that they stand for. And it was the same back when I was playing video games in the late 90s and the 2000s, right? And, that was the mindset of people who do this. It's counterculture. And the moment you try to lecture people like that about social issues and political issues and things that they have to respect and things that they have to believe and people that they have to listen to, they're going to say, fuck you, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to be entertained. I'm here to enjoy myself. Nothing else. Fuck off with this stuff. And as they should.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what you're seeing right now. But once again, these legacy outlets, they're ignoring it. They're acting like it's not happening. And that's where the parallels between this and what happened 10 years ago with Gamergate. Like I got Drinker, were you around? Was Gamergate on your radar a decade ago? Do you remember that?
It passed me by, I'm afraid. I wasn't really active on YouTube at the time, so I had no idea that it was even a thing.
Well, and I've talked about this as well. Like I was very active on YouTube a decade ago, but and in the gaming space, but Gamergate, like, it was just this thing that I heard about. I was so worried about what I was doing and what my company was doing at the time but the big thing is that there's a lot of similarities between what's happening now and what happened a decade ago with Gamergate, specifically, going back to this idea of the legacy media not covering it. So there's a lot of conspiracy. I say the term conspiracy, I use that lovingly. There's a lot of talk of the idea that these traditional media outlets, these legacy media outlets, these websites, these blogs are working together like they did a decade ago to more or less formulate a response to this, and ultimately say, hey, you who are talking about that, hey, critical drinker, hey, side scrollers, hey, go down the list of everybody talking about this right now. You're a racist and a bigot for talking about this. And
I mean, they can pursue that approach if they want. They've got two minor problems in that. One, no one gives a fuck what they think anymore because everyone knows that they're just absolute shills. And two, calling people racist or sexist or misogynist or whatever in 2024 is like a Scottish person saying, hey, it's a bit rainy today. It's become just part of the vernacular to the point where it's not even worth commenting upon. And so they have overused all of this stuff to the point where, sorry, why is my phone going off? Yeah, they've overused all of this stuff to the point where it has no meaning anymore. They have played all of the best cards that they can possibly play, and they have none left. And now no one cares. They have no power. They have no influence. They're done. That's why this is probably going to do as well as it will. It's why it's garnering as much attention as it has, because there's no counter argument. The legacy outlets that would normally push back against this are irrelevant. They're spent forces at this point.
We've talked about, we can talk about this stuff all day long. And it's a question I've asked pretty much everybody all week. Like, outside of just talking about this, and raising awareness is one thing. Voting with your wallet is another thing. In 2 weeks, the Game Developers Conference is happening up in San Francisco. And I feel like I have this urge to go there. And more or less, like, they're not going to let me speak at this thing, but who will be speaking is Sweet Baby Inc., right? And they're going to have all these conferences while they're there, these sessions. I would love to stand outside and not protest, but raise awareness as these game developers are walking in and being like, we don't want this shit, and like kind of organize something out in front. I feel like that's the best way to be seen and for them to see this. And naturally, I feel like that would be written about by Kotaku and Polygon. And look at these racists, and by doing that, or look at these bigots, or whatever it may be. But I feel like that would actually kind of send a message.
It would, but again, like when these people cover it, they're just going to do everything they can to destroy you. And the movement's already there. Like the backlash already exists now to this stuff, and people are aware of it as part of the conversation. It was that watershed moment, like when South Park made the Panderstone episode of South, all about Disney and stuff. They made that part of the public discourse about all of these issues in entertainment. And it's there now. And it's almost like the job is done. You don't need to do any more. Just let it run its course. And it's just sad that the gaming industry has become like this. Like, like I say, when I was doing this stuff 15 years ago or whatever, the attitude was so different. It was very much like, we'll do what we want. Like, it's unfettered art. It was artistic expression. It was creativity. It wasn't bound by all these puritanical like ideas of what's acceptable and what you have to do and who you have to uplift and respect and all that crap. They were able to just have fun with it. That's why it was so successful, because it appeals to that, particularly that younger demographic who are rebellious and who just do want to have fun, who want to stick it to anyone who tells them otherwise. That's what we're missing now. The game industry is trying to mature to the point where it's becoming boring.
What's interesting is you're right? The gaming industry, anybody with two eyes knows the gaming industry is filled with dudes, right? And that's the reality of it, is when you go to these events, you go to conventions, you see people talking about it online, but that's not what these consulting firms say. But that's not what they say. They say, well, listen, the white male gamer is not your audience. That used to be the audience. That's not the audience. But I think that's the one thing that you're seeing from the pushback specifically with the Steam group, is people being like, and even if they're not white or male, they're saying like, yo, like, we don't want any of this shit. And it's amazing.
And they must, they'll dig up all these statistics to say like, 48% of gamers are women. And then you think, okay, how did you get that? How did you get to those statistics? And it'd be like, they'll count things like someone who plays a mobile game like once a week or something. Like, that's not a fucking gamer. Right. Like, you need to redefine like what your understanding of a gamer is, because that ain't it. And I think if you account for all that stuff, it's going to be like 80-20 easily.
Yeah, I think it's the inverse, right? I think what you see is mobile games, moms playing Candy Crush or whatever. It's 80% women, 20% dudes. And then there's probably way more of them because mobile games are so acceptable, so easy. And then it's probably 80-20 or 90-10 dudes to female in like the core gaming space, your console
exactly.
and PC.
And so those moms that play like Farm Simulator or Candy Crush or whatever, they are not going to care about Kill the Justice League or the latest Modern Warfare game or Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or anything like that. That's not your audience. So, yeah, you cater to your audience rather than the one that you want it to be.